The screech of tires split the quiet morning, followed by a small yelp. Aria froze where she stood, coffee in one hand, phone in the other. The sound came from outside her veterinary clinic, right near the main road. She dropped her mug, the hot liquid splattering across her scrubs, and bolted out the door. A little bundle of black fur lay trembling on the asphalt, one paw twisted awkwardly, golden eyes wide with pain and confusion. "Oh my God, no no no," Aria gasped, crouching beside the tiny creature. Hey, it's okay baby, don't move." She lifted the pup gently, her heart thudding. It was heavier than it looked, the muscles under its fur unusually firm for its size. Blood matted one leg, but the wound wasn't fatal, she could fix it. He always fixed things. Aria ran back inside and kicked the clinic door shut behind her. "Mora, prep the table, stat," she shouted to her assistant. "To my returnee subscribers, thanks so much, and if you're new here, please remember to subscribe, like, comment and share for more." Title says, "The Alpha's Stubborn PUP." Let's continue. "Another stray?" Mara asked, snapping on gloves. "Yeah, poor thing. Looks like he got hit by a car. I swear, people drive like maniacs around here." The pup whimpered softly, its breath hitching in short bursts. Aria stroked its head. "You're okay, little guy. You're safe now." The pup's gaze met hers, and for a heartbeat, Aria swore it understood her. Something intelligent flickered behind those gold eyes, something human. It unsettled her enough to pause before shaking the thought off. "Focus, Aria," she muttered, grabbing the anesthetic. They worked quickly. Within minutes, the pup was sedated, the bleeding cleaned, and the wound bandaged. Aria exhaled in relief. "You're going to be just fine, tough guy." She didn't expect the growl. Soft at first, then sharper. A sound that didn't belong to an injured puppy but something bigger. Aria frowned, glancing toward the window. The air shifted, the lights flickered. Her assistant shivered. "Did you feel that?" "Probably just the air vent," Aria said, though her heart said otherwise. Then the clinic door burst open. The hinges cracked, the glass rattled, and a man stepped in. No, stormed in, like the air itself bent around him. He was tall, built like someone who could tear doors off cars without trying. His black shirt clung to broad shoulders, his jaw sharp enough to cut steel. But what froze Aria wasn't his looks, it was his eyes. Gold. The same gold as the pup's. What do you think you're doing?" she demanded, instinctively standing between him and the table. "You can't just barge in here." The man's gaze dropped to the pup, then to her. His voice was low, dangerous, and smooth all at once. "Where is he?" Aria blinked. "Excuse me." "Hi, son," he said, taking a step forward. Aria's jaw slackened. "Your son? You mean," she pointed to the table, "this dog?" He growled, actually growled, and the air pressure in the room thickened. "He's not a dog. Right?" she said slowly, gripping the table. "Let me guess, he's your brother too?" Something dark flashed in his eyes. He took another step, his presence filling the space, overwhelming. "I'm taking him." "Oh no you're not," Aria snapped. "He's injured, and I'm not letting some lunatic waltz in here to kidnap a patient." Mara took one look at the man and bolted into the back room. Aria didn't blame her. The man growled again, deeper this time, and she actually felt it in her bones. For a second she thought she imagined his eyes glowing brighter. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Draven," he said simply. "Alpha of Nightfall Pack." She blinked. "Okay, so what, like a biker gang? You people really need therapy." Draven's lips twitched, the faintest hint of amusement, before fading back into that dangerous calm. "You wouldn't understand." "Try me, dog boy," she snapped. That did it. His composure cracked, his jaw clenched. "Did you just call me dog boy?" "Yeah," she said, planting her hands on her hips. "You barge into my clinic, break my door, and scare my staff. I get to call you whatever I want." For the first time, something like shock flashed across his face. No one ever spoke to him like that. No one dared. But this human woman, this fragile, infuriatingly fearless woman, was looking him dead in the eye like he was a misbehaving mutt. And for reasons he didn't understand, he liked it. Before he could respond, the pup whimpered again. Draven was instantly at the table, his demeanor changing completely. His big hand hovered over the small body, his voice softening. "Easy, pup. I'm here." Aria's annoyance faltered as she watched. For a man who looked like he could crush mountains, the gentleness in his tone was disarming. "You really care about him," she murmured. Draven didn't look up. "He's all I have left." Something in his voice cracked, raw, unguarded pain. Aria's heart squeezed unexpectedly. "Fine," she said quietly. "You can stay while he recovers. But you're paying for the damages." Draven's lips curved slightly. "You're brave, human." "Brave? Oh, just tired," she said, turning away. "And you still owe me for the door." Hours passed. The storm outside grew stronger. Draven sat in the corner silent watching. Aria could feel his gaze on her every time she moved. At one point she turned sharply. "You're staring again." He smirked faintly. "You talk too much." "I'm filling the silence," she said. "You look like the type that broods for fun." He didn't deny it. Instead he stood and walked closer, the distance between them shrinking. "Why did you help him?" "Because it's my job," she said. "No," he said softly. "That's not the reason." Aria hesitated. "Fine." Because he looked scared. Draven studied her face, his golden eyes searching for something he couldn't name. His wolf stirred beneath his skin, restless, drawn to her scent, soft, sweet, dangerously familiar. It couldn't be. He was human. Yet the more he looked, the stronger the pull became, that strange magnetic ache that only meant one thing. His wolf whispered the word before he dared think it. "Mate." Draven turned away abruptly, jaw tight. This couldn't be happening. Aria noticed his tension. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," he muttered. "Try me, dog boy." He actually laughed. Just once. A real, quiet laugh that made her blink in surprise. "You really have no idea what you're playing with, do you?" "Pretty sure you're the one growling at people," she shot back. He leaned closer again, voice low. "Keep calling me that and I might just prove you right." Aria's breath caught. There was heat in his tone, not anger this time but something darker, teasing. She stepped back quickly, cheeks warm. "Down, boy." Draven smirked. "Careful, human. My patience isn't infinite." "Neither is mine," she muttered, brushing past him. By morning the storm had eased. The pup, Luca, Draven had called him, was awake and wagging his tail weakly. Aria crouched beside him. "Hey there, troublemaker. You had us all worried." Luca licked her hand, his golden eyes bright with affection. Draven watched, oddly still. He hadn't seen Luca warm up to anyone this fast since, ever. "She's good with him," Nox, his beta, said from the doorway, appearing silently as always. Draven grunted in agreement. "Maybe she's good for you too," Nox added with a grin. Draven shot him a glare. "Don't start. Too late." Nox's grin widened. "The big bad alpha blushing over a human? The pack will love this." Draven's growl was all teeth. Nox wisely vanished. Aria stood, hands on her hips. "So, is he your kid or your pet?" "I'm still not clear." Draven blinked, almost choking. "What?" "He listens to you like a kid but looks like a dog," she said seriously. "It's confusing." He exhaled slowly. "You wouldn't understand." "Then make me," she said, surprising them both. Draven stared at her. Her eyes were steady, unflinching, full of fire. The same fire his world had been missing for years. For a moment he wanted to tell her everything, about packs, about wolves, about mates. But instead he said, "You'll find out soon enough." Her brows furrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" He didn't answer. Because right then the scent hit him, sharp, cold, wrong. Rogues. Draven's entire body stiffened. His wolf surged forward. "Stay inside," he ordered. "What? Why?" "Lock the doors," he growled. "Excuse me, this is my clinic." The glass shattered before she could finish. 3 massive wolves burst through the front, snarling, eyes red with fury. Aria screamed as one lunged toward her, but Draven was faster. In a blur of black and gold he shifted midair, his body exploding into fur and muscle. The alpha wolf landed between her and the rogues, a massive beast of midnight with burning eyes. Aria stumbled back, heart pounding. Dogboy was a real werewolf. Draven tore into the rogues like a storm, every movement precise, merciless. Aria pressed against the wall, trembling, watching in awe and horror. When the last rogue fell, Draven turned to her, blood on his fur, breath heaving. Their eyes met. She didn't run. Didn't scream. Instead she whispered, "You're bleeding." He blinked, the reaction he least expected. "You just fought off monsters and that's what you're worried about?" he asked, voice rough and half growled. "Someone has to keep you alive, dog boy." And just like that, the unthinkable happened. The Alpha of Nightfall Pack, the most feared werewolf in the region, laughed again. He shifted back, naked and powerful, but Aria, flustered, threw him a towel from the counter without looking. "Seriously, is modesty not a thing in your species?" Draven smirked. "Not when we shift." "Well, shift somewhere else next time." He caught her hand before she could turn away. Her pulse jumped instantly. His golden eyes softened, voice low. "You saved my pup. You have my word, I'll protect you now." Aria swallowed hard. "I didn't ask for your protection. I didn't ask for your kindness," he said. "Yet here we are." For a long, suspended moment neither moved. The air between them burned with something unspoken, something neither of them could name. And then from behind them, Luca's small voice piped up sleepily. Daddy, can we keep her? Aria blinked. Keep, excuse me? Draven smirked. We'll talk about that later. But deep down he already knew. He wasn't going to let her go. Not ever. The morning light cut through the broken glass, glinting off silver shards scattered across the floor. Aria stood frozen, heart racing, staring at the huge man in front of her. The one who just turned into a wolf, fought off monsters, and was now calmly wiping blood from his face like it was a normal Tuesday. Luca, the little pup, had crawled into her arms sometime during the chaos. He yawned, unbothered, resting his tiny head against her chest as if near-death battles were part of his bedtime routine. Draven, on the other hand, was focused on the bodies outside. 3 rogues, he muttered under his breath, nostrils flaring. They were following my scent. Aria slowly placed Luca down. Following your scent? You mean you brought those things here? Draven's head snapped toward her, golden eyes burning. They would have found me no matter where I went. Great, she said, throwing her hands in the air. So my clinic's a werewolf battlefield now. Perfect. Totally fine. He gave her a look that could silence thunder. You're still alive, aren't you? Barely, she shot back. And you owe me another door. He blinked. You're really worried about a door after that? Yes, she said, standing taller. Because I can't pay rent with wolf drama. Draven's jaw twitched. You have some nerve, human. And you have no manners, she said. You could at least say thank you. He blinked again, genuinely confused. For what? For saving your son, obviously. He looked at her for a long moment, like he couldn't decide whether to yell or laugh. Finally, a low chuckle escaped him. You're insane. Aria crossed her arms. And you're bleeding. He looked down. There was a deep gash across his ribs he hadn't noticed. It's fine. It's not fine, she said, marching up to him. Sit. He raised an eyebrow. Excuse me. You heard me, dog boy. Sit. Draven tilted his head, golden eyes narrowing. You do realize I'm not one of your patients, right? Then stop acting like one, she said, grabbing the medical kit. Sit. Now. Something in her tone made him obey, against his better judgment. Aria knelt beside him, cleaning the wound with gentle precision. You heal faster than normal people, don't you? Yes, he said, his voice lower now. But not instantly. Well, she murmured, good thing you've got me. For a few seconds there was silence. Only the sound of rain dripping through the broken window. Then she asked quietly, what were those things? Those wolves. Draven's jaw tightened. Rogues. Wolves without a pack. They hunt, kill, and destroy. Some of them used to be ours, until they betrayed us. Aria frowned. So they wanted revenge? Or blood, he said. Sometimes both. She looked up at him. And they came after you, because you're an alpha? He hesitated. Because I'm me. Wow, she said softly. That's humble. He almost smiled again. Almost. Hours passed. The storm cleared, leaving sunlight streaming through the cracks in the window. Aria had boarded the door with a broom handle and pure stubbornness. Draven stood near the pup, watching Luca nap peacefully in a basket lined with towels. He looked softer like this. Almost human. Aria leaned against the counter. So, Alpha Draven, huh? Do I call you that? Or do you prefer your growliness? He turned slowly. You mock what you don't understand. Then help me understand, she said. Because I've got about 1,000 questions. Draven's gaze lingered on her. This fearless, infuriating woman who didn't bow, didn't tremble, didn't shut up even when wolves were tearing through her walls. He sighed. Ask. He grinned. Hey. First one. How is your kid a dog 1 minute and a little boy the next? He's not a dog, Draven corrected firmly. He's a pup. Born wolf. His mother was human. That silenced her for a moment. So he's half. Yes. Aria's voice softened. Where's his mom now? The air changed instantly. The easy calm vanished from Draven's eyes, replaced by something sharp, grief hidden behind steel. She's gone, he said simply. Aria swallowed hard. I'm sorry. He didn't respond. For a while neither spoke. Then Luca stirred in his basket and whimpered softly. Aria crouched to comfort him, her hand brushing his fur. It's okay, little one. You're safe. Draven's chest tightened at the sight, the way she touched his pup like he was hers too. Something inside him shifted again. That pull he felt before, it was stronger now, heavier, almost magnetic. He forced himself to look away. Where are you from? Aria asked after a moment. The mountains, he said. Far from humans. We keep to our own. Not doing a great job of that lately, she teased. His lips curved. You talk too much. And you brood too much. He tilted his head, studying her. You're not afraid of me. Should I be? Yes, he said, but his voice came out softer than intended. Then stop giving me reasons not to, she replied. For a second they just stared at each other. The silence wasn't empty. It was charged, full of something unspoken that made Aria's heart beat faster and Draven's wolf stir restlessly. The connection was undeniable. But neither of them was ready to say it. That night Aria couldn't sleep. Every creak, every howl outside made her jump. She tiptoed into the clinic's main room. Draven was still there, shirtless, sitting by the window, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "Don't you ever sleep?" she asked. He didn't turn. "Not when danger still breathes." "Poetic," she said softly, crossing her arms. "And creepy." He smirked faintly. "You talk even when you're scared." "Maybe I talk so I don't scream." Draven's expression softened. "Then keep talking." She hesitated, then sat across from him. "Do you ever get tired of being whatever you are?" He glanced at her. "Alpha." "Yeah. Every day," he said quietly. Aria studied him in the moonlight. The scars, the eyes that looked too old for his face, the way he carried the weight of 100 lives on his shoulders. "You don't look evil," she said. He raised an eyebrow. "Disappointed." "Maybe a little," she joked, smiling faintly. Something flickered between them, warmth, tension, curiosity. Draven's gaze dropped to her lips, then back up. "You shouldn't stare at wolves like that." "Like what?" "Like you're not sure if you want to run or touch." Her heart skipped a beat. "I wasn't." "Liar," he murmured, the words soft, almost teasing. She swallowed, suddenly aware of how close they were. "You're impossible." "And you're brave," he said quietly. "I can't decide if that's admirable or stupid." "Probably both." They stared at each other again, the tension stretching, breathing. The air thickened until a noise broke it, Luca's tiny bark. Aria exhaled shakily. "Your kid has perfect timing." Draven smirked. "He gets it from me." The next morning brought chaos again, but this time the funny kind. Luca was running around the clinic, tiny paws skidding on the floor as Aria tried to chase him. "Hey, stop chewing my stethoscope." Draven stood in the corner, arms folded, watching the scene unfold with a mix of pride and amusement. "Control your son," Aria shouted. "He's learning," Draven said calmly. "He's destroying." Draven shrugged. "Same thing." Aria glared. "You're impossible." "Thank you," he said, smirking. That smirk was going to be the end of her, she was sure of it. Finally she caught Luca and scooped him up. "You're lucky you're cute." Luca wagged his tail and licked her chin, making her laugh. "See? He likes me better than you." Draven's jaw tightened slightly. "Don't push it." He grinned. "What? Jealous?" He growled under his breath, but she only laughed harder. Then his expression shifted, serious again. "We can't stay here." Aria blinked. "Excuse me." "They'll come again," he said. "More rogues. Stronger ones. They won't stop." "So your solution is to run?" "To protect you," he said firmly. "I didn't ask for protection." "And I didn't ask to care," he said before he could stop himself. Silence. Aria blinked, heart skipping. "What?" Draven turned away. "Pack business. You wouldn't understand." "Oh no, you don't get to pull the mysterious alpha card on me," she said, stepping closer. "You're not leaving." "I can't stay," he said. "Then take me with you," she blurted out. He froze. Aria swallowed. "If those monsters come after you again, they'll come here too. I'm safer with you than without you." Draven turned slowly, eyes burning gold again. "You have no idea what you're asking." "Then show me," she said. He stared at her. This human woman with too much courage and too little sense, and something inside him snapped. Before he could argue, before she could change her mind, he reached out and grabbed her wrist, his touch hot and electric. Her breath hitched as his voice dropped, rough and low. "If you come with me, there's no going back." "Maybe I don't want to," she whispered. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then he said, "Pack your things." 2 hours later, Aria found herself in the passenger seat of a black SUV she definitely didn't own, staring at Draven behind the wheel. "This is insane," she muttered. "You said you wanted to come," he said flatly. "Yeah, I didn't think you'd actually let me." Luca sat between them, tail wagging happily, completely unaware that his life, and theirs, was about to change. The road ahead stretched endlessly into the forest, sunlight filtering through the trees. Aria looked at Draven. "So, what happens now?" He didn't answer right away. His golden eyes focused on the road, but his jaw clenched slightly. "Now," he said finally, "you learn what it really means to live among wolves." She sighed. "Sounds dangerous." "It is," he said. "Good," she murmured, half to herself. "I was getting bored." Draven actually smiled. A small, real smile that made her heart skip again. "Your trouble," he said. "Then we'll get along just fine." Luca barked happily from the back seat, tail thumping against the leather. Draven's voice softened. "He likes you." Aria smiled. "He has good taste." For the first time in a long while, Draven felt something unfamiliar. Peace. But peace never lasted long for wolves. As the car disappeared into the forest road, far behind them, a pair of glowing red eyes watched from the shadows. A low, cruel voice whispered, "Found you, Alpha." And the hunt began again. The forest stretched endlessly ahead, thick trees, sunlight peeking through leaves like golden fireflies, and the hum of unseen life echoing between the trunks. Aria pressed her forehead to the car window. "So, this is where the wolves live." Draven's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Not just any wolves. My pack." She looked at him. "And they're, what? Gonna sniff me or something?" He almost smiled. "Probably." She groaned. "Fantastic. I'll wear perfume next time." Luca, seated between them, barked once as if laughing. They had been driving for hours, deeper into nowhere. Civilization had disappeared miles ago. The narrow dirt path was swallowed by trees that seemed to whisper secrets as they passed. "Are you sure this isn't a kidnapping?" she asked finally. "Because it really feels like one." "You volunteered," Draven reminded her. "Right. Because I make terrible life choices." He shot her a look, but there was amusement in it now, faint but real. When the SUV finally stopped, Aria blinked in surprise. They were at the edge of a cliff overlooking a vast valley, mist curling like silver smoke below. Nestled within the trees were wooden cabins, glowing with soft yellow light. Streams ran through the land and the sound of wolves howling carried on the wind like music. "Whoa," she breathed. "It's beautiful." Draven stepped out, his boots crunching against gravel. "Welcome to Silverfang territory." He climbed out, eyes wide. "Silverfang? Sounds like a rock band." He gave her a look. "It's my pack's name." "Still sounds cool," she said, smiling faintly. Luca jumped into her arms, tail wagging. "At least someone's happy," she murmured, scratching his ear. Draven glanced toward the valley. "Stay close to me. My wolves can smell you already." "Great," she muttered. First impressions by scent. Totally normal. They descended a winding path surrounded by towering pines. As they neared the village, the sound of footsteps echoed. Several large figures emerged from the trees, all dressed in dark clothing, eyes glinting amber and silver. Aria's breath caught. These weren't normal men. Every one of them radiated quiet, dangerous strength. One of them, tall and broad-shouldered with dark hair, stepped forward. "Alpha," he said, bowing his head slightly. "Ronan," Draven replied. "Status. All clear. Patrols doubled since your message." Ronan's eyes flicked toward Aria, then down to Luca. "You brought a human?" "She's with me," Draven said flatly. Ronan's brows rose, but he didn't argue. "Understood." Aria forced a nervous smile. "Hi, I'm Aria. I do first aid. And panic." Ronan blinked slowly. "Charming." "Thanks," she muttered under her breath. Draven shot her a warning look. "Stay quiet until I say otherwise." "Bossy," she whispered. He ignored her, leading the way down the slope toward the cluster of cabins. The air was filled with wood smoke and the faint scent of pine and wet earth. Children's laughter echoed somewhere in the distance, then quickly stopped as people noticed their alpha's return. Heads bowed. Doors opened. Every wolf in sight lowered their gaze as Draven passed. Aria felt the weight of their eyes, wary, curious, some even hostile. She leaned closer to Draven. "They don't seem thrilled to see me." "They're protective," he said quietly. "Humans don't usually cross our borders." "Maybe you should have mentioned that before bringing me," she whispered. "I did." "No, you didn't." "I thought it," he said. She glared at him. "Oh, that's helpful." Luca barked once, breaking the tension, and several of the pack members softened instantly. "A pup?" a woman exclaimed, stepping forward. "Is that?" Draven nodded once. "Wine." Gasps rippled through the group. Whispers started. "The Alpha's pup, the half-blood child, he's real." Aria felt the stares again, heavier now, sharper. Draven didn't seem to care. "Enough," he commanded, his voice deep, laced with dominance. "Get back to your duties." Silly, everyone obeyed. Aria stared. "Okay, that was intense." He said nothing, just kept walking toward a large cabin near the center of the village. "Is that your house?" she asked. "Pai Den," he corrected. She smirked. "Of course it is." Inside, the cabin was surprisingly warm, rustic but grand. The stone fireplace flickered, casting golden light across fur rugs and shelves stacked with old books. Aria set Luca down, watching him explore with tiny paws. "This is cozy," she said, running her hand along the wooden walls. "Like a mountain lodge." Draven hung his coat on the rack. "You'll stay here for now. The pack won't trust you yet." She frowned. "Trust me? I'm not the one with claws." He turned to face her fully. "They fear what they don't know. A human in a wolf's home has never ended well." "Then maybe I'll be the first," she said stubbornly. He studied her for a long moment. "You always talk like you believe you can change the world." "Not the world," she said softly. "Just the people in it." He almost smiled again but stopped himself. "You're reckless." "Thanks. You're welcome." He sighed. "Stay inside. Don't go near the borders." If anyone questions you, say you're under my protection. Understood, Alpha, she said dramatically, saluting him. His glare could have melted ice. You're insufferable. Yet you keep me around. He didn't reply, but his silence spoke volumes. That night, Aria sat near the fireplace wrapped in a blanket. Luca was curled up beside her, sleeping soundly. The flames danced shadows across the walls, and somewhere outside, wolves howled to the moon. Draven stood near the window watching the forest. They're calling to you, Aria said quietly. He nodded. They sense their alpha. It keeps them calm. She watched him for a moment. You ever get tired of being the big, scary leader? He turned slightly. You think leadership is about being scary? Isn't it? He shook his head. It's about control. Even when everything inside you wants to break. Something in his tone made her chest tighten. Sounds lonely. It is, he admitted. She looked at the fire. Maybe it doesn't have to be. For a moment the silence between them felt like gravity, pulling them closer whether they liked it or not. But before either could speak, a knock came at the door. Draven's expression hardened instantly. Stay here. He opened the door. Ronan entered, face tense. Alpha. Scouts found tracks. Not ours. Draven's eyes flashed gold. How close? Near the northern ridge. They stopped just outside the barrier. Aria stood up. What's happening? Rogues, Draven said, his voice a growl. They followed us. Aria's stomach twisted. You said we were safe here. I said safer, he corrected. There's a difference. Unbelievable, she muttered. Do you ever go anywhere that isn't being hunted? Not with you around, apparently. Excuse me. Every time you open your mouth, trouble follows. Oh please, she snapped. You were cursed with bad luck long before I showed up. Ronan looked between them awkwardly. Should I leave? Draven sighed. Go. Double the watch. I'll handle this. As Ronan left, Aria crossed her arms. You're going after them, aren't you? Yes. Then I'm coming with you. No, he said instantly. You'll stay here. I'm not a child. No, but you're human. And fragile. Wow, she said, mock offended. You really know how to compliment a girl. This isn't a game, Aria. Neither is bleeding out on my clinic floor, but I still saved you. Draven's jaw flexed. You're impossible. Then stop trying to control me. Their eyes locked again, hers blazing with defiance, his glowing with restrained fury. Finally he growled, fine. But you stay behind me. Deal. He stared at her for a second longer, as if regretting every life choice that led him to this conversation, then grabbed his jacket. Let's go, he said. They moved through the forest in silence. The moon was high, painting silver paths across the ground. Aria followed closely, every sound magnified. The crunch of leaves, the distant howl of wolves, the pounding of her own heart. Draven moved like a shadow, silent and sure. She could see the tension in his shoulders, the predator barely contained beneath his calm exterior. When they reached the ridge, the scent of blood hit the air. Draven crouched, sniffing the dirt. Fresh. Aria wrinkled her nose. I'll take your word for it. Stay here, he said, rising. She rolled her eyes. Here we go again. But he was already moving, vanishing into the trees like mist. Aria stood there for maybe 10 seconds before muttering, like I'm actually staying put. He followed. Branches scratched her arms, her shoes slipped in mud, but she kept going, until she reached a clearing. Draven stood there facing 3 rogue wolves, massive, snarling eyes glowing red. Her breath caught. Draven shifted before her eyes, bones cracking, fur bursting through skin, his form expanding until the alpha stood revealed, huge, dark, and terrifyingly beautiful under the moonlight. The rogues lunged. The fight was a blur of motion and sound, snarls, claws, the flash of teeth. Draven moved with lethal grace, every strike precise, every growl echoing like thunder. One wolf tried to circle behind him. Aria shouted, behind you, before she could stop herself. Draven turned just in time, slamming the rogue into a tree with bone-shattering force. But another one lunged toward Aria. She stumbled back, heart freezing, until a blur of fur and fury knocked the beast aside. Draven roared, pinning the rogue down, his teeth at its throat. The forest went still. The surviving wolves fled, their howls fading into the distance. Draven's chest heaved, his fur slick with blood. Slowly he shifted back into human form, collapsing to one knee. Aria rushed to him. You idiot. I told you not to get hurt again. He looked up at her, breathing hard. You never listen. And you never thank me, she said, ripping a strip from her sleeve to press against his wound. He caught her wrist gently. Aria. She met his gaze, golden eyes now dim but warm. Next time, he said hoarsely, when I tell you to stay, listen. He swallowed. Next time when I tell you I can handle myself, believe me. For a second their faces were inches apart. The world faded, the trees, the night, the blood. Just the two of them breathing the same air. Then Luca's distant howl broke the moment. Aria blinked, stepping back. We should get back. Draven nodded slowly. Before the others wake. As they walked back through the forest, she glanced at him. So, how'd I do? He smirked faintly. You survived. I'll take that as a compliment. It wasn't. Yes, it was. He sighed. You're going to drive me mad. He grinned. That's the plan, Alpha. When they returned to the village, the sky was turning pale with dawn. Ronan met them at the gate, relief flashing in his eyes. You're both alive. Barely, Draven muttered. Aria handed him a bandage roll. Guess who needs patching up again? Ronan raised an eyebrow. You get used to it. Draven growled softly, but didn't argue as she tended his wounds once more. Her touch was gentle, her expression focused. For once she didn't make jokes. When she finished, he looked at her and said quietly, "Thank you." She froze. "Did you just? Don't make me repeat it." She smiled softly. "You're welcome." Outside, the pack began to stir. The first light of dawn spilled across Silverfang Valley, painting everything gold. And for a brief, perfect moment, standing there, bruised and bloody but alive, Aria realized something dangerous. He was no longer just helping a stranger. He was part of his story now. The morning sun crept over Silverfang Valley like liquid gold, spilling across rooftops and misty trees. Smoke from the cook fires curled into the pale sky, and the faint hum of waking wolves filled the air, laughter, footsteps and whispers. Aria stood outside Draven's cabin, arms folded, staring at the view below. Luca was playing in the grass, chasing a butterfly, tail wagging. It should have been peaceful. But it wasn't. Because everywhere she turned, she felt eyes on her. Curious eyes. Judgy eyes. Wolves passed by and stopped talking. Some nodded politely. Others didn't bother to hide their scowls. She could feel their thoughts even without hearing them. Why is a human here? Why is she with our Alpha? What right does she have to touch the pup? She sighed, whispering to herself, perfect. Day 1 and I'm already the village scandal. Behind her, the door creaked open. Why are you outside? Draven's voice was quiet, deep as always, still heavy with that Alpha command that made her spine straighten even when she didn't want it to. She didn't turn around. Because I needed air that didn't come with glares and mutters. He stepped beside her, his tall shadow falling over her. They'll get used to you. She snorted. Sure. Just like cats get used to water. A hint of amusement flickered in his eyes. You handled worse last night. She looked at him, then really looked. His arm was wrapped with a clean bandage she'd done herself, his dark hair messy, his shirt half open from where he hadn't bothered to button it all the way. She quickly looked away, clearing her throat. You should rest. That wound's deep. I heal fast. Not fast enough if you keep testing it, she muttered. He turned toward the valley, arms crossed. The council wants to see me. Council. My pack's elders. They keep the balance. And question every decision I make. She grimaced. Let me guess, I'm on today's agenda. His silence was answer enough. Oh great, she said dryly. Nothing like starting my morning being judged by a bunch of fur-covered elders. Draven's lips curved slightly. Stay here. Not a chance. Aria. Draven, she interrupted, matching his tone. If I'm going to live among wolves, I should meet the ones who run the place. He studied her for a moment, then sighed. Fine. But don't say anything unless I tell you to. He grinned. I'll try. No promises. The council chamber was carved into the base of a cliff, an enormous hollow stone hall lit by torches that flickered like small suns. 5 elders sat in a half-circle, cloaked in gray furs, their eyes sharp and unreadable. The one in the center, Elder Marcellus, had long silver hair and a face lined with wisdom and suspicion. Draven entered with Aria at his side. The murmurs began instantly. Marcellus's eyes narrowed. Alpha, you bring a human into our sacred hall. Aria smiled awkwardly. Hi. Big fan of caves. Draven shot her a look. She shut up immediately. Marcellus's gaze moved to her neck, then to Luca in her arms. And the pup. Pie's son, Draven said simply. Shock rippled through the elders. You admit it so easily? Another elder, Lysandra asked, her voice low. You admit to fathering a half-human child? Draven's expression didn't waver. He carries my blood. That's all that matters. Lysandra's sharp eyes cut to Aria. And her. What is she to you? Before Draven could speak, Aria raised her chin. A nurse. A babysitter. A human with a habit of saving your Alpha's life. You're welcome, by the way. Lysandra's nostrils flared. Disrespectful. Draven interrupted calmly. She's under my protection. Your protection? Marcellus repeated. Or your bond. Silence. The word hung between them like a spark over dry wood. Aria blinked. Bond? What bond? Draven said nothing. Marcellus's voice grew heavier. The bond between mates. Don't tell me, Alpha. You've felt it, haven't you? Draven's jaw tightened. That's not your concern. Lysandra leaned forward. A human mate? You'd curse us all. Enough, Draven snapped, his voice echoing through the chamber like thunder. The torches flickered violently and even the elders flinched. You will not question my decisions in front of her. Aria's eyes widened. The power in his tone, it wasn't just authority. It was something primal, dangerous. The Alpha command wasn't a shout. It was a force that moved the air itself. Marcellus held his stare for a long moment, then said, Very well. But if this human brings ruin upon us, the blood will be on your hands, Draven. Draven didn't respond. He simply turned and walked out, Aria right behind him. The moment they stepped into sunlight again, Aria exhaled loudly. Well, that was fun. 10 out of 10 on the welcoming committee. Draven didn't answer. He was walking fast, muscles tight, jaw clenched. Draven. Silence. Draven. He stopped suddenly and turned, his golden eyes flashing. You shouldn't have spoken. She blinked. I was defending you. I don't need defending. Well, maybe I do, she shot back. I'm standing in front of 5 wolves who look like they'd happily use me as chew toys. You expect me to just stand there smiling? Yes. She groaned. You're impossible. And you talk too much. They glared at each other for several heartbeats before Aria muttered, You know, for someone who growls all the time, you're really bad at communication. He sighed, rubbing his temples. You don't understand how fragile things are right now. One mistake and the council will turn on both of us. Then let them try, she said softly. I'm not scared. He looked at her, really looked this time. The stubbornness, the fire, the ridiculous courage that made her stand in a room full of predators without flinching. Maybe you should be, he said finally. Maybe you should stop pushing people away, she countered. The air between them thickened. His jaw worked, his gaze flickering to her lips, then to her eyes again. She swallowed hard. Draven. He turned abruptly. We're done talking. Typical, she muttered. That night the village was restless. The air carried tension, whispers of the council meeting, the Alpha's defiance, the human woman. Aria sat by the window watching the stars, unable to sleep. Luca stirred beside her, his tiny paws twitching in his dreams. She sighed softly. You picked one heck of a dad, kid. A knock came at the door. She stood frowning. Who's knocking at midnight? When she opened it, she found a woman standing there, tall, dark-haired, with a cruel smile. Hi, Aria said uncertainly. Can I help you? The woman stepped inside without permission. So you're the human everyone's whispering about. Wow. No one told me I'd be famous. The stranger's smile didn't reach her eyes. I'm Celine. Draven's betrothed. Aria froze. His what? Celine circled her like a wolf appraising prey. You didn't know? Of course you didn't. Humans never do. Aria blinked. Wait, he's engaged? He didn't mention that between all the growling and brooding. Celine's tone dripped venom. Draven and I were promised since birth. A union to keep the bloodline pure. Until you showed up. Aria crossed her arms. Look, lady, I didn't sign up for your wolf soap opera. Celine's eyes gleamed. You're not one of us. You'll never be one of us. And when the council finds a reason, you'll be gone, for good. With that she turned and left, the door swinging shut behind her. Aria stood there, heart pounding. Betrothed? Council threats? A pack that hated her? She glanced at Luca sleeping peacefully and whispered, Your dad's a walking disaster. The next morning, Draven found her outside again. She didn't look at him. Aria, he said carefully. Don't, she muttered. I met Celine. His jaw tightened. She shouldn't have. She said you were engaged. It was arranged, he said flatly. It means nothing. Nothing, she asked, turning to face him. Because it didn't sound like nothing when she said it. Celine doesn't speak for me. Then who does? She demanded. Their eyes met, fire clashing with storm. I didn't ask for this, he said quietly. The bond, the chaos, the danger. But it's here. And so are you. Aria's chest tightened. So what now? Draven's gaze softened just for a second. No. I protect what's mine. Before she could ask what he meant, a horn sounded from the valley, long, loud, urgent. Ronan came running up the hill. Alpha. The rogues are back and they've brought others. Draven's eyes turned gold in an instant. How many? Too many, Ronan said breathlessly. They're demanding the pup. Aria's stomach dropped. What? Draven turned to her, voice low but fierce. Get inside. Lock the doors. Don't come out. Draven. Now. For once she didn't argue. She ran inside, clutching Luca tight as the sounds of growls and howls filled the air. Outside, the pack rallied, the Alpha's roar echoing across the valley like thunder. A sound that promised blood, vengeance, and the fury of a father. And as Aria looked through the window trembling, she whispered, Please come back, you stubborn wolf. The sound of battle ripped through Silverfong Valley. Growls clashed with snarls, claws met claws, and the air reeked of smoke and blood. The pack's warning horn echoed again, louder this time, a haunting cry that sent chills down Aria's spine. Inside the cabin, Aria held Luca tightly to her chest. The pup whimpered, sensing the chaos outside. It's okay, baby, she whispered shakily. Daddy's out there. He'll come back. But her heart said otherwise. Every scream, every roar sounded closer. She could hear Draven's voice commanding the pack, that deep, thunderous tone that carried through the storm. But beneath it was something else, Something darker. Then silence. Aria's breath caught. A shadow fell across the window. Her pulse raced. Draven. The door burst open. But it wasn't him. A rogue stood in the doorway, tall with bloodshot eyes and jagged teeth. His fur was matted, his body scarred. The smell of rot clung to him. Aria froze. The rogue sneered. The pup, where is he? Her grip tightened around Luca. You'll have to kill me first. He grinned, revealing yellow fangs. Gladly. She moved fast, grabbing the iron poker from beside the fireplace. The rogue lunged. She swung with every ounce of strength she had, hitting him square across the face. He howled, stumbling back. But he recovered quickly, claws slashing the air. Aria dodged, heart hammering. She struck again, the poker glowing red from the fire's heat. This time she jammed it into his shoulder. He screamed, and then suddenly the cabin door flew off its hinges. Draven stormed in, eyes glowing gold, blood splattered across his chest. He moved faster than sight. One strike and the rogue was on the ground. Draven's claws sank deep into the rogue's neck. A sharp twist and it was over. Aria stood trembling, still holding the poker, smoke curling around her. Draven turned to her, chest rising and falling. His gaze softened when he saw Luca in her arms. Are you hurt? She shook her head, breathless. No. But he wanted Luca. I know. Draven wiped his hands on his torn shirt. They're not just after the pack anymore. They're after him. Aria frowned. Why? He's just a baby. Draven hesitated, for the first time since she'd met him. Because of what he is. She blinked. What do you mean? He took a deep breath, looking away. Luca isn't just half human. He's the first of his kind. A hybrid born under the blood moon. Aria's brows furrowed. Blood moon. It happens once every century, he said, voice low. A rare lunar event that blesses, or curses, whoever is born beneath it. Hybrids born on that night are said to carry a power that can change the order of the world. She stared at him. Change the order? Like, destroy it. Or rule it, he said grimly. A chill ran down her spine. So that's why the rogues want him. Draven nodded slowly. They believe if they can take him, raise him, they'll have the weapon to overthrow every alpha across the lands. Aria looked down at the sleeping pup, her heart twisting. He's just a child. He didn't ask for this. Neither did I, Draven said quietly. But I'll kill anyone who tries to take him. Before Aria could respond, Ronan stumbled into the doorway, bleeding from a gash across his shoulder. Alpha. They've broken through the western border. Draven growled. Get the women and elders to the caves. I'll hold them off. Ronan nodded and ran. Draven turned to Aria. Stay here. No matter what happens. Draven, you can't. He cupped her face suddenly, his touch surprisingly gentle despite the blood on his hands. I need you alive. He needs you alive. Promise me. Her eyes widened. Draven. Promise me. He swallowed hard, nodding. I promise. He looked at her for one last lingering moment, then shifted. The sound of bones cracking filled the room, his body reshaping into that of a massive black wolf, eyes glowing like molten gold. He turned once, meeting her gaze, then leapt out into the chaos. Aria shut the door, barricading it with furniture. Her hands were shaking, but her mind was clear. If the rogues wanted Luca, they'd have to go through her first. Hours passed. The battle outside raged like a storm that wouldn't end. Aria could hear howls, snarls, and the sickening crash of bodies colliding. The night burned red under the rising moon. Then silence again. Too quiet. He crept to the window. Smoke hung in the air. The village was in ruins. Fires smoldered in the distance. And then she saw him. Draven, kneeling in the dirt, surrounded by bodies. Blood matted his fur, his breath ragged. She rushed out before she could think. Draven. He looked up weakly as she ran to him. I told you to stay inside. You're bleeding, she said, kneeling beside him. Oh my God, you're... He winced as she tried to press a cloth against his side. It's nothing. Nothing? You're half dead. He gritted his teeth. I've survived worse. She glared at him. You're the worst patient ever. Despite everything, he gave a faint smile. You talk too much. She smiled back through tears. You growl too much. Then, a low chuckle echoed from the shadows. Aria froze. Out of the smoke stepped a tall man, pale with eyes that glowed crimson. His presence sent shivers down her spine. Draven stiffened. Malik. The man smirked. Hello, brother. Aria's head snapped toward Draven. Brother. Malik spread his arms dramatically. Didn't he tell you, human? Every alpha has a shadow. I'm his. Draven rose weakly, fury burning in his eyes. You're no brother of mine. Malik's gaze flicked to Luca in Aria's arms. Ah, so this is the child of prophecy. The hybrid prince. Stay away from him, Draven growled. Malik smiled coldly. You can't protect him forever, Draven. The blood moon rises again soon, and when it does, the world will kneel to whoever claims the boy. Aria's voice shook. You're insane. Am I? Malik asked softly. The world fears change, but I'll embrace it. The child belongs with me. Over my dead body, Draven snarled. Malik tilted his head. That can be arranged. Before Aria could blink, they lunged at each other. Two forces of nature colliding with thunderous power. The ground trembled beneath them. Sparks flew as claws met claws, teeth met flesh. The brothers' roars echoed into the night. Aria clutched Luca close, backing away. Draven. Malik struck hard, knocking Draven to the ground. You can't win. You're weak because of her. Draven's eyes flashed. She makes me stronger. With one final surge, he tackled Malik, claws slashing across his chest. Malik screamed as black smoke poured from his wounds, and then just like that he vanished into the shadows. Aria rushed to Draven as he collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. He'll be back, Draven rasped. He nodded, trembling. Then we'll be ready. He looked up at her, exhaustion and pride mingling in his gaze. You're not as helpless as you look. She smirked through tears. You're not as invincible as you think. For a moment, despite the destruction around them, they both laughed softly. The fires crackled. The pack began to emerge from hiding. The moon glowed high and red above the valley, the blood moon silent and watchful. Draven looked at it, then at Luca, sleeping soundly in Aria's arms. It's just beginning. Aria frowned. What is? The war for his destiny. The dawn came slow over Silverfong Valley. A faint mist drifted above the wrecked camp, softening the edges of blood and ruin. The fires had burned out, leaving only smoke curling like ghosts through the trees. The pack moved quietly, wounded, weary but alive. Aria stood on the hill with Luca in her arms, watching the sun rise. Her hair clung to her face, streaked with dirt and dried blood, but her eyes burned with something fierce, determination. Draven walked up beside her, his left arm bandaged tight. He said nothing at first, just stared at the valley below. The rogues retreated before dawn, he finally said, voice low. We lost 6. Aria swallowed hard. And Malik. He shook his head. Gone. But he'll return. He always does. A heavy silence hung between them. Then Draven glanced down at the child in her arms. He slept through it all? Mostly, she said with a weak smile. Guess he takes after you. Draven's lips twitched just barely. Let's hope not. Aria looked at him, then really looked. The hard alpha she had first met was still there, but now there were cracks. Beneath the command, the growl, the stubborn pride. There was pain. And something else she couldn't name yet. What are you thinking? She asked softly. That everything I've fought for might already be lost, he murmured. Before she could respond, an elder wolf approached. An old woman with silver hair and eyes as pale as ice. Her cane clicked against the stones as she walked. Alpha Draven, she said, bowing slightly. We must speak. Draven turned to her. Elder Nira. Her gaze drifted toward Luca. The child, he has awakened the moon's mark. Aria frowned. What does that mean? Nira's lips pressed into a thin line. The blood moon's power is stirring inside him. I can feel it in the air, ancient, wild, unbound. She looked at Draven. You must understand, Alpha. This child is not just a hybrid. He is the heart of an old prophecy. Aria's stomach twisted. What prophecy? Nira began in a whisper, her voice like a song sung from memory. When the moon bleeds and the Alpha falls, a child of dusk shall hear the call. Blood of wolf, breath of flame. Bound by love, the world shall change. Draven's jaw tightened. I've heard it before. Old superstition. Nira shook her head. No, Alpha. It's not myth. The Blood Moon Child is destined to bring either peace or destruction. Aria felt Luca stir in her arms, his small fingers curling around the edge of her cloak. Her heart clenched. You're saying my son could destroy the world? Nira's gaze softened. Only if those who raise him lose their hearts to darkness. For a moment no one spoke. The weight of her words sank deep. Then Draven said quietly, "We'll make sure that doesn't happen." Nira's expression turned grave. You can't protect him alone. The moon's energy grows stronger with every passing night. He will draw enemies and allies from across the realms. Aria's chest tightened. Then what do we do? Nira looked between them. There's one who might guide you. The Oracle of the Hollow Mountains. She alone can interpret the full prophecy. Draven frowned. That mountain's forbidden. No one who goes there returns. Then you'll have to be the first, the elder said simply. Later that day the pack gathered what supplies they could. The air hummed with tension, a fragile calm after chaos. Aria helped bandage the wounded while Draven oversaw the preparations. Every so often she caught him watching her, eyes unreadable. Finally, as the sun dipped below the trees, he approached her. You don't have to come, he said. Aria turned to him, arms crossed. You think I'm staying behind after everything? Not happening. It'll be dangerous. She smiled faintly. So is giving birth to a half-wolf baby in the middle of a thunderstorm. I think I'll manage. For a split second his lips curved. You're impossible. And you're bossy. Their gazes locked. For a heartbeat neither moved. The tension between them hummed, electric, unspoken. Then Draven cleared his throat and looked away. Fine, he said. But you follow my lead. Yes, Alpha, she teased. He shot her a warning look, but there was a flicker of amusement behind it. They left at dusk. Draven, Aria, Ronan, and two of the pack's best trackers. Luca slept in a sling across Aria's chest, his tiny heartbeat steady against her own. The journey to the Hollow Mountains was long and treacherous. They crossed ravines shrouded in mist, forests where the trees whispered secrets, and valleys where even the moonlight dared not linger. By the third night, they set camp in a narrow clearing. Aria sat by the fire, feeding Luca warm milk from a flask. Draven sat across from her, sharpening his blade. She glanced up. You ever sleep? He didn't look at her. Not when I'm hunted. By your brother? His jaw flexed. By my past. Aria tilted her head. You know, for someone who's always trying to act cold and untouchable, you talk like a tragic poem. He gave a low grunt. I'm not poetic. Sure, she said with a smirk. You just growl in metaphors. For a moment, something almost like laughter flashed in his eyes. You really are reckless. Maybe, she said softly. Or maybe I'm just tired of pretending I'm not scared. He looked up then, meeting her gaze. His expression softened, the alpha mask slipping for just a heartbeat. You're braver than most wolves I've met. Aria blinked, caught off guard. Did you just compliment me? Don't get used to it, he muttered, standing to check the perimeter. But she smiled anyway. That night, Aria woke to a strange sound, a faint hum in the air like the whisper of 1,000 wings. She sat up, blinking. The campfire was out. The air was cold still. Then she saw it. A faint red glow pulsing from beneath Luca's blanket. Draven, she whispered. He stirred instantly, reaching for his weapon. What is it? She pulled back the blanket. Luca's small hand was glowing, veins of crimson light trailing up his arm like living fire. Draven's eyes widened. The blood mark. The air shimmered. The trees bent inward, the wind howling. The glow grew brighter, until suddenly, a voice echoed through the clearing. It wasn't human. It wasn't wolf. It was ancient. The child of dusk awakens. The moon bleeds once more. Aria clutched Luca tighter, terrified. What's happening to him? Draven stepped forward, his golden eyes burning. He's calling to the moon. He can't control it yet. The earth shook. A symbol appeared on the ground, a circular sigil glowing beneath them. Ronan shouted, Alpha. It's a summoning mark. Before Draven could react, a column of red light shot skyward, and a woman stepped out of it. She was tall, draped in dark silver robes, her hair as white as bone. Her eyes glowed faintly. Draven growled. "Who are you?" The woman's voice was calm, resonant. "I am Celera, keeper of the Hollow Mountains. The oracle you seek." Aria froze. "You came to us?" Celera's gaze fell upon Luca. "The child summoned me. His power has awakened earlier than foretold." Draven's grip on his sword tightened. "Then tell us what it means." Celera looked up at the moon, her expression unreadable. "It means the prophecy has already begun." The air grew colder. The fire died completely. Celera turned her gaze back to them. "You must choose now, Alpha. Protect the child, or prepare the world for what comes next." Aria's voice trembled. "What comes next?" The oracle's eyes glowed crimson. "The Blood Moon War." The oracle's words hung in the air like smoke, heavy, unreal, burning slow in the silence that followed. "The Blood Moon War?" Aria repeated, her voice small but sharp. "What does that even mean?" Celera's crimson eyes softened. "It means destiny has already shifted. The child's awakening will unbalance the realms. The moon's power cannot exist without consequence." Draven took a step closer, his voice low but fierce. "You said he was the heart of a prophecy. Now you're saying he's a threat." Celera met his gaze calmly. "Not a threat, Alpha. A key. But every key can open, or destroy." The fireless clearing pulsed with the red glow of the sigil under their feet. The trees seemed to breathe, alive with ancient whispers. Aria clutched Luca close, his tiny face bathed in the strange light. "I don't understand," she said. "He's just a child." Celera turned her gaze on her, piercing and endless. "And yet, through his blood, the moon speaks. You, his mother, carry the seal that holds his power. Without you, he cannot be contained." Aria blinked. What?" Draven frowned. "What are you saying?" The oracle lifted her hand and a faint glow bloomed over Aria's chest, a small crescent mark shimmering beneath her skin. Aria gasped. "What is that?" Celera's voice dropped to a whisper. "The moon seal. It lies dormant until the child's awakening. You were never meant to be only human, Aria Blake. The night you gave birth under the blood moon, you absorbed part of his essence. You became his anchor." Draven's golden eyes flashed with realization. "That's why the rogues want her. They don't just need the child, they need her to control him." Celera nodded once. "And now that the power has awakened, they will come again, stronger, wiser, desperate." The Alpha's jaw clenched. "Let them come. They'll find nothing but ashes." But Celera's gaze darkened. "Your strength won't be enough. The Blood Moon's magic is older than your pack's laws. It obeys no Alpha." For a moment even the wind seemed to pause. Then Aria spoke quietly, voice trembling but steady. "So what do we do?" Celera extended her hand. "Come with me to the Hollow Mountains. There the ancient bond can be trained, mastered. The child must learn to balance his power before the next full moon, or it will consume him." Draven's eyes narrowed. "And if we refuse?" The oracle's reply was soft, but it struck like thunder. "Then you'll watch the world burn, starting with your pack." They traveled at dawn. The Hollow Mountains loomed like stone giants on the horizon, their peaks lost in clouds. A storm gathered above them, lightning flashing like restless spirits. The path twisted and rose, carved by centuries of wind and forgotten gods. Every step seemed heavier, the air thicker, filled with something ancient. Aria held Luca close beneath her cloak. His skin still shimmered faintly, though the glow had faded. He slept soundly, as if unaware that the world might shatter around him. Draven led the way, silent and focused. The muscles in his back tensed with every sound from the shadows. The storm reflected in his eyes. Aria broke the silence. "Do you believe her?" He didn't turn. "The oracle doesn't lie." "That's not an answer." Finally he stopped, glancing back at her. "I believe the world has gone mad. And somehow we're right in the center of it." Aria gave a weak laugh. "Lucky us." A hint of a smirk flickered across his face. "You call this lucky?" He shrugged. "I've had worse weeks." He looked at her a moment longer, then kept walking. They reached the mountain's base by noon. The air crackled with energy, ancient, heavy, alive. The cliffs were carved with symbols that glowed faintly red as they approached. Celera stood before a massive stone archway, her robes fluttering in the wind. Beyond this gate lies the Moon's Hollow, the oldest temple in the Wolf realm. Once you enter, there is no turning back. Draven's voice was calm. "We've already crossed that line." Celera inclined her head and raised her hand. The symbols flared brighter and the stone parted soundlessly, revealing a vast cavern lit by an eerie silver light. They stepped inside. The air changed instantly, colder, sharper, charged with power. The walls shimmered like liquid moonlight, and the ground pulsed faintly beneath their feet. At the center of the cavern stood a stone platform shaped like a crescent moon. Celera gestured toward it. "Place the child here." Aria hesitated. Every instinct screamed against it, but something in the oracle's tone, calm, ancient, certain, made her obey. She gently laid Luca on the stone. The moment his tiny body touched it, the air erupted with energy. The sigils flared, a red storm of light swirling around him. Aria stumbled back, heart pounding. Draven! He moved instantly, catching her before she fell. His hands were warm, strong, grounding. Solara's voice echoed through the cavern. Do not fear. The mountain is recognizing him. Luca's body began to glow, his heartbeat thrumming in the air like a drum. The stone beneath him split open, revealing veins of light running deep into the earth. Aria cried out, but Solara raised her hand. He must be tested. Draven's growl was low and dangerous. You said we were coming here to teach him, not torture him. This is the only way to awaken his bond, Solara replied. And yours. The air shimmered. Suddenly, Aria's mark, the crescent on her chest, flared bright. A beam of light connected her to Luca, and another reached toward Draven. Draven stiffened, golden eyes blazing. What is this? Solara's voice rang clear. The triad bond. The child, the mother, the alpha. 3 souls bound by moonfire. Together you are the moon's chosen. The light surged. Aria gasped as energy flooded through her veins. Heat, light, emotion. Every heartbeat echoed with Luca's and Draven's. She felt his rage, his pain, his buried tenderness. Everything. Draven dropped to one knee, gripping his chest. His heart pounded like thunder. He could feel her, the warmth of her soul, the softness of her fear, the strength that matched his own. Then as suddenly as it began, the light faded. The cavern fell silent. Aria collapsed against him, trembling. What was that? Draven held her, his breath ragged. Whatever it was, we're not the same anymore. Solara nodded. The bond is sealed. You share power, spirit, and fate. If one of you falls, the others will follow. Aria's eyes widened. You mean if he dies? You die, Solara finished. And the child too. The silence that followed was deafening. Draven rose slowly, eyes burning gold in the dim light. Then we don't fall, he said. Not any of us. Solara's expression softened. You'll need more than courage, Alpha. The blood moon's rise is near. When it comes, the prophecy will reach its first turning. Aria looked down at Luca. He stirred in her arms, his tiny fingers clutching her cloak. She whispered, we'll be ready. Solara turned to them one last time. Remember this, child of the moon. Love will be your greatest power, but also your greatest weakness. With that, she stepped into the shadows and vanished. That night, in the quiet of the mountain, Aria couldn't sleep. The stars outside flickered like dying candles. Draven sat by the entrance, silent as stone. She watched him for a long time, then finally said, You're thinking again. He didn't move. Always. About the prophecy? About you. She froze. Me. He turned his head, his gaze steady. You risked everything for a world you barely understand. That's either bravery or madness. She smiled faintly. Probably both. He stood, walking toward her, the firelight tracing the sharp lines of his face. You could have left that night in the clinic. You didn't owe me anything. I didn't stay for you, she whispered. I stayed for him. Draven's expression softened, but his voice was low, raw. And yet here you are, holding my son, carrying my bond. The air between them thickened, warm, unsteady, alive. Aria looked up, her heart pounding. What are you saying, Draven? He stepped closer, close enough that his breath brushed her cheek. I don't know anymore. The silence stretched, full, trembling, fragile. Then before either could speak again, a howl echoed outside, long, deep, and close. Draven's head snapped toward the entrance. They found us. Aria's eyes widened. Who? He didn't answer. He just drew his blade, eyes burning gold once more. Stay with the boy, he growled. No matter what happens, don't let them take him. And then the storm broke loose. The first howl shattered the mountain's silence like glass. It was deep, guttural, and close, the kind of sound that made the air itself tremble. Draven's hand tightened around his blade, gold eyes blazing. He stepped out into the night, his body tense, every sense locked onto the movement beyond the rocks. The mountain wind carried the smell of iron and ash. Rogues. Dozens of them. Maybe more. Aria clutched Luca tight to her chest, her heart pounding so fast it hurt. She could see shadows moving through the mist outside, fast, animal-like shapes, circling the entrance like predators waiting to strike. Ronan burst into the cave, panting. Alpha. They've surrounded us. At least 50 of them, maybe more. They came through the northern ridge. Draven's growl rumbled low. Malik. Aria's head snapped up. Your brother. Draven's eyes hardened like steel. He's leading them. Before anyone could speak, a cold, mocking voice echoed from outside, smooth and deep, soaked in venom. Well, brother, you didn't think I'd let you keep all the fun for yourself, did you? Malik stepped into the faint light, tall, sharp-featured, his dark hair falling across eyes the color of storm clouds. His grin was cruel, his aura heavy with power. Aria's stomach twisted. He looked like Draven. The same bone structure, the same intensity, but where Draven's presence burned with control, Malik's felt like fire gone wild. Draven stepped forward, his voice low but dangerous. "You've gone too far, Malik. This mountain is sacred." Malik laughed softly. "Sacred? You sound just like father before I killed him." Ronan stiffened. Aria's breath caught. Draven didn't flinch, but his jaw locked tight. "You've been chasing ghosts," Malik said. "Prophecies, fate, destiny, all of it. But you forgot one thing, brother." Draven's voice was a growl. "And what's that?" Malik's grin widened. "Power doesn't wait for destiny. It takes what it wants." And with that he raised his hand and the rogues attacked. The world exploded into chaos. Wolves lunged from the shadows, teeth flashing, claws scraping against stone. Draven met the first wave head-on, shifting mid-leap. His black wolf form hit the ground with a thunderous growl, tearing through the first attacker like smoke. Ronan shifted too, a massive gray blur beside him. The cave filled with snarls and roars, the air thick with dust and blood. Aria ducked behind a pillar, clutching Luca close. Her hands trembled, but her eyes burned with defiance. She could hear the bond thrumming in her veins, Draven's rage, his pain, his heartbeat pounding against hers through the invisible thread that now linked them. Her chest burned. "Draven," she whispered. The bond pulsed. Suddenly, Luca began to glow again, soft red light spreading across his skin like fire dancing beneath his flesh. "No, no, not now," Aria whispered, panic in her voice. "Please, baby, stay with me." But the light grew brighter and the cavern shook. The rogues hesitated. Even Malik took a step back, eyes narrowing. "What is that?" Aria looked down and froze. Luca's eyes were open, glowing red like the blood moon. Solara's voice echoed in Aria's mind. "He cannot control it yet. If the seal breaks..." The ground cracked open. Energy roared through the cavern like a storm. Draven turned mid-fight, his wolf eyes blazing gold. "Aria! I can't stop it," she shouted. Luca's glow erupted into a wave of crimson light that surged outward like a heartbeat. Rogues were thrown back, crashing into the walls. Even Draven staggered, claws digging into the rock to steady himself. Malik shielded his face with a snarl. "Impossible, he's just a pup." Aria dropped to her knees, wrapping herself around Luca as the wind howled through the mountain. "Please," she screamed. "Stop." And suddenly, everything did. The light dimmed. The sound died. The cave was still. When Aria looked up, the red glow had vanished. Luca was limp in her arms, breathing shallowly but alive. Draven stumbled toward them, shifting back to human form. His chest was cut, his face smeared with blood, but his eyes went straight to them. "Is he?" "He's alive," Aria breathed. "Just drained." Malik's voice came from the shadows, dripping with fury. "That power belongs to me." Draven turned, eyes flashing gold again. "Over my dead body." Malik's lips curved into a smirk. "That can be arranged." Before Draven could move, Malik thrust his hand toward the ground. The air rippled and something black, something ancient, began to rise from the fissures. A figure stepped out, tall, cloaked, with eyes that glowed like dying embers. The very air seemed to bow before it. Aria froze. "What is that?" Malik smiled. "The Shadow Alpha. The true heir of the moon's curse." The creature's voice was like thunder and silk all at once. "The blood moon's vessel has awakened, and now it will be mine." Aria clutched Luca tighter. Draven's growl was pure warning. "You'll have to kill me first." The creature tilted its head. "Gladly." The battle that followed was unlike anything the mountain had ever seen. Draven charged, his wolf form colliding with the Shadow Alpha in a blur of black and red. Each impact shook the earth, sending shockwaves through the cavern. Ronan fought the rogues still swarming at the edges, but even he was struggling. Aria crawled to the side, shielding Luca. "Draven!" she shouted, her voice echoing. Through the bond she felt his pain, sharp, searing, as the Shadow Alpha's claws raked across his chest. "No!" she screamed. Something deep inside her snapped. The crescent mark on her chest flared, blindingly bright. The bond pulsed to life again, stronger than ever. She could feel Draven, not just his pain but his soul. His fear. His strength. His love. She pressed her hand to her chest and whispered, "Take it, take whatever you need." The bond ignited. Draven roared, the sound half human, half beast, as light poured from his body. His black fur shimmered silver, his eyes burning brighter than the moon itself. Malik stumbled back, eyes wide. "No, that's impossible." Draven turned, his voice echoing with a power that shook the mountain. "You wanted power, brother? Here it is." He lunged. The force of his strike sent Malik flying into the rock wall. The shadow Alpha snarled, lunging again, but Draven met it head-on. For a moment, light and darkness collided, and then the cavern exploded in white. When the dust cleared, the world was silent again. Aria blinked, coughing through the smoke. "Draven." Then she saw him, kneeling in the center of the cavern, human again, trembling. The shadow Alpha was gone. Malik lay unconscious against the far wall, blood trailing down his face. Aria rushed to Draven's side, Luca still in her arms. "Are you okay?" He looked up at her, his eyes softer now but shining gold. "You saved me." She shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "No, we saved each other." He reached out, brushing her face with his hand, rough, warm, gentle. "That bond, it's more powerful than anything I've ever felt." Aria managed a small smile. "Guess we're stuck with each other now." He let out a low, tired laugh. "Could have been worse." Then, to her surprise, he leaned forward and pressed his forehead to hers. A quiet, wordless promise. The bond pulsed once, soft and calm this time. For the first time since the chaos began, the mountain was quiet. But outside, far beyond the clouds, the blood moon rose again, burning red and full, watching silently as the prophecy continued to unfold. The first thing Aria noticed when she woke was the smell of smoke. The faint, metallic tang of blood lingered in the air, and for a heartbeat she thought she was still dreaming. Then the sound of someone coughing snapped her back. Draven was leaning against the rock wall, his body still battered from the fight, blood streaked across his chest. His skin glistened with sweat, but his eyes, those fierce golden eyes, were awake, watching her. "Hey," he said hoarsely, voice rough as gravel. "You're awake." Aria blinked, her throat tight. "What happened?" "The shadow Alpha's gone. For now." His gaze flicked toward the corner where Malik's unconscious body lay chained in silver. "But we've got another problem." Luca stirred in Aria's arms, letting out a small whimper. His tiny hand brushed her chin, and the faint red glow under his skin pulsed once before fading again. "He used the blood moon's energy," Draven said quietly. "It saved us, but it also woke something else." Aria frowned. "Something else?" Before he could answer, Malik groaned. His head tilted slightly, his cracked lips curling into a faint smirk. "You sound nervous, brother." Draven's muscles tensed. "Stay down." Malik chuckled, though it came out broken. "Oh, don't pretend you're not curious, Draven. You felt it too, didn't you? That pulse in the air when the child unleashed his power." Aria stepped closer, eyes sharp. "What do you mean?" Malik lifted his head slowly, the chain around his neck clinking softly. "The blood moon doesn't just give power, it connects bloodlines. It calls to them." Draven frowned. "Speak plainly, Malik." Malik grinned, though his teeth were stained with blood. "You really don't know, do you?" "Of course not. Father made sure to keep you ignorant. Always the loyal one, always the fool." Draven's jaw clenched. "What are you talking about?" Malik's gaze drifted to Aria, lingering on her mark, the faint crescent still glowing dimly above her collarbone. "Her mark isn't a mistake. It's not some random sign from the moon goddess. It's the mark of the lost line." Aria stiffened. "The what?" Malik's smirk widened. "The bloodline that was erased from history. The first family blessed by the moon herself. Betrayed, hunted, and slaughtered so that Father's pack could rise." Draven took a step closer. "You're lying." "Am I?" Malik's eyes gleamed. "Ask her. Ask the spirit that follows her." Aria froze. "Celera." The air shimmered faintly. The spirit's voice filled the space like soft wind through glass. "He speaks half-truths. The lost line existed, and it was tied to both your destinies." Draven's head snapped toward the glowing apparition. "Explain." Solara's form flickered. Long ago the moon goddess created two lines of power, one of light, one of shadow. Yours, Draven, descends from the shadow line meant to guard the balance. Aria's family, they were of the lost light. Together your bond restores what was broken. Malik's laughter cut through the tension, low and dangerous. So that's it. The goddess's grand plan, to fix her own mistakes through a pair of doomed lovers. Draven's growl echoed through the cavern. You'll stay silent or I'll. But Malik's eyes suddenly rolled back, his body jerking violently. Aria gasped. Draven. The silver chains glowed red-hot, melting in an instant. A dark mist poured from Malik's chest, spiraling upward like smoke alive. Draven moved to shield Aria and Luca, his voice sharp. Get back. The mist condensed, taking shape, a human-like form but made entirely of shadow. The voice that came from it was ancient and echoing. He was weak, but his hatred made him a perfect vessel. Draven's heart pounded. No, you were destroyed. The shadow Alpha turned its blazing eyes toward Aria and the child. Did you think light can exist without shadow? Every bond, every curse, has a cost. Luca whimpered again, the red glow flaring under his skin. Aria clutched him close. You're not taking him. The shadow smiled. The prophecy does not need him. It needs you. Draven stepped in front of her, his voice a snarl. Over my dead body. Then so be it. The shadow struck. The air cracked with energy as Draven leapt, intercepting the blow. The force hurled him across the cavern, smashing him into the rocks. He hit the ground hard, coughing blood. Draven! Aria screamed. Ronan appeared then, charging through the cave entrance, fur bristling, eyes wild. He shifted mid-run, sword gleaming in his hand. I felt it, the bond surge. What's happening? Draven groaned, pushing himself up. The shadow Alpha's not gone. He's inside Malik. Ronan's face went pale. Then we're out of time. The shadow Alpha lifted a hand and the ground trembled. Time has always been mine. Aria's knees gave out as the force rippled through her, a scream tearing from her throat. The crescent mark on her chest glowed brighter, her veins burning like fire. Solara's voice echoed in her mind. The seal is breaking. You must choose, child. Aria gasped. Choose what? To end it or to become it? She looked down at Luca, his face peaceful despite the chaos. Then at Draven, barely standing but still fighting, always fighting. Her heart shattered. Draven turned toward her, golden eyes fierce. Aria. Whatever you do, don't listen to it. Tears streamed down her face. I can't lose you. He smiled weakly. Then trust me. The shadow Alpha struck again, darkness pouring toward them like a storm. Aria stood, trembling but unyielding. She pressed her hand to her heart, feeling the mark burn through her skin. Moon goddess, she whispered, voice breaking, if this is the power you gave me, then let it end with me. Light exploded from her palm, not red this time but pure, blinding white. It filled the cavern, washing over everything, shadows, rocks, screams, until the world itself seemed to stop. Draven shouted her name, reaching for her, but the light swallowed them all. When the brightness faded, silence reigned once more. The cave was half collapsed, dust floating like snow through the air. Draven coughed, pushing debris aside as he crawled toward where Aria had stood. Aria? Nothing. Then faintly he saw her, lying in the center of the cavern, Luca still in her arms. Her hair shimmered with faint traces of silver light, her breathing shallow but steady. He gathered her into his arms, holding her tight. Don't you dare leave me. Her eyes fluttered open weakly. Draven. He laughed through his tears. You did it. You actually did it. She smiled faintly. He's safe, isn't he? Draven nodded. Both of you are. But deep inside he could still feel the hum of something beneath the surface. The faint echo of darkness, whispering, waiting. Ronan approached, limping, his sword broken. Is it over? Draven looked at the horizon beyond the cave mouth, the first light of dawn breaking through the clouds. He didn't answer for a moment. Then softly, for now. Outside, as the morning sun touched the peaks, the mountain seemed at peace again. But in the distance, among the ashes and the silence, a faint voice whispered through the wind, Malik's voice, soft and cold. You can't kill what was born from the moon itself. The wind outside the cave was softer now, no longer screaming but whispering through the pines. Dawn was spreading, thin and gold, brushing the shattered world with light. Aria woke slowly. Her body ached all over, her skin still tingled where the mark had burned, and her arms were numb from holding Luca so tightly through the chaos. She blinked against the light, confused for a moment, then realized she wasn't alone. Draven sat beside her, silent, his head bowed. His knuckles were bruised and bloodied. There was a strange stillness in him, the kind that only came after you've lost too much to still know if you've won. When her voice came, it was soft. Is it over? He looked up at her, eyes weary but alive. You stopped him. The shadow Alpha's gone. For now. Her gaze moved to Luca, asleep in her lap, tiny chest rising and falling peacefully. A warm tear rolled down her cheek. I thought I lost him. Draven reached over, his rough hand brushing her hair away from her face. You almost did. But you pulled him back. She gave a weak smile. Guess the moon goddess isn't done with us yet. He tried to smile back, but there was something unreadable in his eyes. Something that made her heart tighten. What? She asked quietly. Draven sighed. Ronan went to check the outer packs. Half of the western borders burned. The wolves, they're gone, Aria. The shadow's energy didn't just vanish, it took them with it. Her smile faded. The silence that followed was heavy, a mix of grief and exhaustion. Finally, she whispered, so what happens now? Draven's gaze drifted toward the cave's opening. The sunlight caught his hair, turning it almost silver. Now we rebuild. Or try to. But even as he said it, she could feel it. The faint pulse beneath her skin, the same glow that had saved them all. It was still there. The mark. It hadn't faded. That night, when the moon rose again, she stood alone outside the cave, staring up at it. It was smaller now, pale instead of red, but still beautiful. Still full of secrets. Draven came up behind her, his warmth settling over her shoulders. You shouldn't be out here alone. I couldn't sleep. Neither could I. They stood in silence for a while, the only sounds the quiet forest and the soft cry of a night bird in the distance. Aria looked down at her hands. Do you ever think about what it all means? Why yes. Draven chuckled softly, though it was hollow. Every day. I think about how my whole life I fought to keep the curse inside me. Then you showed up and suddenly the curse didn't seem so scary anymore. Her heart twisted. You don't mean that. He turned her toward him gently, eyes locked with hers. I do. You changed everything, Aria. You gave me something worth fighting for, and for the first time something worth losing. She swallowed hard, her chest aching. Draven. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her skin. Say it. She met his gaze, trembling. I can't lose you again. He smiled faintly, his thumb brushing her jaw. Then don't. And then finally he kissed her. The world seemed to go quiet. No storms, no spirits, no wars. Just two broken souls finding each other in the ruin of everything else. When they pulled apart, she rested her head against his chest. What if the shadow comes back? Then we face it, he said. Together. Weeks passed. The pack began to rebuild, slowly, painfully. The smoke cleared and grass began to grow again where the fire had scorched the land. Ronan returned, his arm in a sling but his spirit unbroken. The eastern packs are gathering, he said. They're asking for an alpha to lead. Draven looked away. They don't need me. Ronan frowned. You're the only one they'll follow. Draven's eyes went to Aria, who stood a few feet away, holding Luca. The pup cooed softly, his tiny hands reaching up toward the sky as if trying to catch the moonlight. Draven exhaled slowly. They'll follow us. Aria turned at his words, surprise flashing across her face. Us. Draven walked toward her, his voice steady. You think I don't see it? The way they look at you. You're not just my mate, Aria. You're their light. Her throat tightened. I don't know if I can lead. He smiled, that quiet, dangerous smile that always made her knees weak. You already are. That night, the pack gathered beneath the full moon, not to fight but to heal. Bonfires flickered across the valley. Wolves of every rank and color stood together, their heads bowed as Draven and Aria stepped forward, their hands joined. Ronan's voice carried through the clearing. The shadow line and the lost light stand united at last. We welcome the dawn of a new pack, the Moonborn. A cheer rose wild and pure. Aria felt tears burn in her eyes as Draven squeezed her hand. She looked down at Luca, who was watching the crowd with wide, curious eyes. The mark on his wrist glowed faintly, a perfect crescent. "Looks like he's not just our pup," she whispered. "He's theirs too." Draven chuckled softly. "He's the future." But just as the crowd's howls filled the night, Aria's vision blurred for a moment, and a familiar voice echoed softly in her mind. "Sawyer, the balance is restored. For now. But remember, child, even light casts a shadow." Aria's breath caught. "Will it ever end?" The spirit's voice faded like a sigh in the wind. "Not while the moon still rises." She turned toward Draven, who was watching her with concern. "Aria." She smiled softly, forcing the tremor from her voice. "Nothing. Just the wind." He pulled her close again. "Then let it blow. Tonight we live." And as the moon hung high above them, silver and eternal, the Alpha and his mate stood surrounded by the pack. A family reborn from ashes, their love stronger than fate, their hearts marked not by pain, but by the bond that refused to break.